Elaine is 24, standing on a scale in a back room behind the ticket counter, 5:40 in the morning, 1962. A clipboard hangs beside her with her name and her weight limit typed above it. White gloves weight folded in her handbag. The needle settles. Nobody speaks. This number will decide more than her shift today. And number 1 will show why the airline had already decided the exact year her career would end. Number 12, the weigh-in. The scale is cold under her stocking feet. A supervisor watches the needle, not her face. Airlines in the 60s listed weight ranges right in the hiring ad, numbers like 105 to 135 in proportion to height. One airline's employee magazine even ran a feature about a stewardess who lost 50 pounds, then 5 more, just to qualify. She said she loved the job. She did not mention the diet again. The scale did not care how well she handled a cabin. It cared about a number. Elaine watches the needle the way she watches a clock. That sounds harmless until you notice who is holding the clipboard. Number 11, the uniform that never came off. She pulls on the girdle first, before the blouse, before the coffee. One former Pan Am stewardess remembered the rule plainly. Anywhere she stood off the plane in uniform, the uniform had to be complete. Hat, gloves, white cotton, or black leather depending on the season. Full slip, girdle, hair that never touched the collar. Some girls tried skipping the girdle. Word got around. The girdle was not a fashion choice. It was insurance against being noticed by the wrong supervisor. Elaine smooths the fabric in the mirror before 5:30. That was just the shape of the job. The color of it came next. Number 10. One look, by design. Natural hair only. No blemishes, hair neatly groomed, collar clear. One airline's own hiring list spelled it out in 1968, item by item, like a parts order. Hairspray mist catches the light over the vanity. A stray curl meant getting sent back to quarters before boarding. The face had to match an idea, and every airline had a different idea in mind. Number 9. The airline's type. Recruiters compared photographs against a house look, not a resume. One carrier wanted worldly and cosmopolitan. Another wanted the girl next door. One wanted a demure smiler with, in the words of its own ads, high moral character. Another simply preferred an hourglass figure and said so. The pen clicks against the clipboard. Elaine picked her airline the way a chorus line picks a dancer to match. The interview was never really an interview. It was a casting call, and once she passed it, the airline owned more than her schedule. Number 8. The application that asked everything. The form goes further than any job should need. Bust, waist, hip measurements, marital status, debts, a criminal record, or none. Whether she rented her own place or still lived with her parents. The pencil scratches against the carbon paper, copying every answer twice. None of it flies a plane. All of it decides whether she's hired. Some of those blanks would follow her the whole length of her career. One of them would end it early. Number 7, Miss Only. The requirement sheet says it plainly. Unmarried. A wedding was not a private event here. It was a resignation letter, mailed to yourself. Under her white glove. Her hand stays bare. On purpose. Supervisors noticed rings. Co-workers noticed rings. Marriage bars loosened slightly at a few airlines by the late 50s, but most still enforced single status well into the 60s. The rule about her hand was really a rule about her future, and it was never written as gently as it sounds. Number 6, no children, not even by exception. Some hiring sheets made room for widows and divorcees, a small mercy printed in fine type. But the same line always finished the same way. Must not have any children. Elaine reads the small print at the bottom of the sheet and understands exactly who this job was built for. Even the exceptions had a hard stop built in. Until now, the rules lived on her body and in her closet. What came next lived in the personnel file, and personnel files did not forgive. Number 5. The countdown age. Her hire date already implies her last day. Several airlines grounded stewardesses at 32. A few pushed it to 35. At a congressional hearing on age discrimination, one airline executive admitted the plain reason out loud, calling it the sex thing. Elaine is 24. She is already 8 years from being called too old for the same uniform she's wearing today. The calendar behind the supervisor's desk was never just a calendar. The rules about her looks had quietly become rules about her clock. Number 4. Grounded by the needle. Same scale from number 12. Different consequence now. Elaine watches a colleague pulled off the schedule over a few pounds. Her name marked in pencil on the weigh-in log. Grounded first. Terminated if it didn't change. The scale never asked how she handled turbulence, or a difficult passenger, or an emergency landing. It asked one number, and the number decided the paycheck. A few pounds could end a job that a real crisis in the air couldn't touch. Number 3. The law that didn't exist yet. A mimeographed notice appears on the break room board. Word spreads that a coworker filed a complaint and wasn't fired for it. First time anyone's heard of that. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 had created a federal body to hear cases like hers, and by 1968, that agency ruled that being young, thin, and single was not actually required to do this job. Age ceilings, it said, were illegal sex discrimination. Elaine has been flying for years by now. She reads the notice twice. One ruling didn't erase a decade of rules overnight. But it started the clock running the other way, and for the first time, the rulebook itself was the one in trouble. Number 2. The women who refused to fly quietly. A petition moves hand to hand down a hallway, paper rustling with each pass. In the early 70s, stewardesses organized formally, taking on marriage bans, weight rules, and forced retirement. Not as individual complaints anymore, but as one demand. Elaine is in her 30s now, the exact age that used to be a deadline, and she is still on the schedule. Airlines began dropping the weight limits, dropping the marriage rule, dropping the age ceiling, one by one, under pressure they could no longer wave away. The same women who had been measured, weighed, and dated out of their careers were the ones rewriting the job from the inside. What they won next changed what the word stewardess even meant. Number 1. The word itself disappeared. By the mid-70s, the title changed. Stewardess became flight attendant, and with the new name came the categories that used to be disqualifying. Married women, older women, women with children, eventually men. Elaine, well past the age that was once meant to end her, is still flying, wearing a badge with the new word printed on it. And here is the part that reframes everything before it. The job had never actually required youth, or thinness, or a single status to be done well. It required them only because the airline wanted a specific decorative version of a woman on board, one it could quietly replace on schedule. Every rule, the scale, the girdle, the application, the ring, the calendar, had never been about safety, or service, or skill. It had been about how long she was allowed to remain visible in a job she was already good at. The rules didn't just control how she looked. They had decided, long before her first flight, exactly how long she was permitted to exist inside it. Elaine steps onto that same scale one more time. Years later, the needle settling the way it always did. Only now the number on the card looks different to her. It was never really about her weight, or her ring, or her hairline. It was about a clock the airline had started without asking her. If a scale, a girdle, or a name on an old boarding pass just brought back a memory of your own, tell us about it below, and come with us to the next hidden rule.